Okay, morning everybody. Let's get this party started. We're starting to see people join. I appreciate all you guys joining us this morning. I know all five of you, no one's on the West Coast, so no one got up too early. And Marty, you got up a little early, but I don't think it's too bad. You're a busy man anyways. But I'm really excited for this panel today. A lot of the times we focus on brewing, a lot of times we focus on business. This one's a little more focused on the challenge of running a brewery while also, having a second job or a second career. And running a brewery these days is a challenge in itself. So I'm a little excited. I'm a little nervous. I'm really looking forward to you guys sharing your experiences, balancing both careers at once. This is going to be a really good time. I know so many people in craft beer are doing what you five are doing. And I think it's good to hear from one another about, what you're doing that's working, that helping you balance, because it takes a toll on your mental health. And, running a business, just one is a challenge, let alone two. So today is going to be a really fun conversation. And then I'll let you guys get back to your double duty. But Mike, I'd like to start with you. Why don't you tell everybody a little bit about who you are and what you do? Don't tell them about your second job. We're going to dive into all that fun stuff in a minute.
Got it. Hey, everybody. My name is Mike LaCouture. I'm one of the three owners of a brewery called Goblet. We're in Bensalem, PA, so it's about 15 minutes north of Philadelphia, if you know the area. And we are a 10-barrel brewery with a music venue / tap room connected. And we've been in business for about 6.5 years now.
I take it you probably, unfortunately, haven't had too many concerts lately.
No. What a great business model we picked. But when we moved to the new location, then put this giant venue in, and now nobody can come in and watch anything. So.
Well, I'm excited to hopefully enjoy a show there at some point in the future. It sounds like an awesome place to be. I mean, these virtual concerts, they just really aren't the same.
No.
You heard from John and over.
Now, Marty, tell us about you. I know we've talked before, but let everybody else know what you do.
My name is Marty Czech. I'm a co-owner, general manager at Pantown Brewing Company in St. Cloud, Minnesota. We're 60 miles northwest of the Twin Cities, if you're familiar with Minnesota. We're in year 2, so like everybody else, we did not put pandemic in our business plan. So this has been a real interesting second year. I basically do everything but brew beer. That's not my forte.
I think you're one of the few people who kind of lucks out of brewing beer early on like that. So congratulations, I suppose. Yeah. Now, Jason, welcome to the party today. Tell everybody what you do at Rusty Nickel.
Hi, guys. My name is Jason Havens. We are Rusty Nickel is a New York State farm brewery up in the Buffalo, New York area. We're a 10-barrel brew house. We've been in business for about 5.5 years now, and we're a unique facility out here where we actually utilize very local ingredients in most of everything that we do, hence the New York State Farm concept. So a little different spin, if you will, on some of the more traditional methods. And my role here is really to get my hands into everything from directing to marketing and purchasing. And sometimes, when I'm lucky enough, I get into the brew house.
Awesome. Yeah, upstate's beautiful. What city did you say, or county are
Just
you
outside of Buffalo, New York.
Oh man, it's beautiful up there. Have you had snow yet?
Not yet. No, we're dodging that for now, but I'm sure it's on its way soon.
Oh man, good luck with that. Now, Jan, what?
Hey, how's it going, everyone? My name is Jan Chwiedosiuk. I am a co-owner of Jersey Cyclone Brewing in Somerset, New Jersey. That's in Somerset County. It's about 30-ish minutes away from Newark, about 15 minutes north of New Brunswick, if you know the area. We opened up in 2019, actually on May 4th. So we're kind of just past our 1-year mark, which hell of a surprise to be in our tasting room on our anniversary with no one in there. But nonetheless, we are growing and continuing to grow now that the tap room's back open. We're a 5-barrel brew house and in about a 5,000 square foot facility that's split 2,500 square feet for manufacturing, 2,500 square feet for the tasting room.
I'm sure you'll get back to a normal operation at least some point in the future.
Yes, we're about 25% now with New Jersey's rule. So here's the hoping.
No, Jersey was a little late to open back up. Is that correct?
Yes, very late. I think we were one of the last, if not the last.
Well, good luck getting back to normal then. And Karl, welcome. How are you today? And what do you do?
I'm doing well. My name's Karl Herzberg. I'm the brewer for Mountain Valley Brewing, which is a small farm brewery in Southern Virginia, just outside of Martinsville. And I'm also on the board of directors for a brewery that's forming in Reidsville, North Carolina. So it's keeping me busy. That's a co-op brewery, so we've been trying to get more members to help fund the whole thing, and we've got everything in place, and we're looking to open by December.
So, Karl, while we're chatting with you right now, might as well dive into what we're going to talk about today. You guys all have second jobs, and when we first brought Karl on the line today, you let us know not in addition to working at one brewery, you're getting ready to launch the second, and you have another job that keeps you busy. Is that correct?
That is true, and it's quite the juggle, and I think it's a handyman business that I've been running for probably about 17 years now. And it's kind of going less and less. I'm taking on fewer and fewer jobs as I get busier and busier with everything with brewing and opening the other one. It really bites into that. But I do think I like the brewing angle more than the handyman. The money's not the same, but I enjoy what I'm doing more.
Now, do you keep up with the handyman job because you enjoy it, or is it more so just the necessity, like we're all fighting for survival these days?
It was a necessity. Now it's becoming less of a necessity, but it's still helpful to have it there and make some money every once in a while.
Yeah, it's hard to give up something you've done for 17 years.
Definitely.
Now, Mike, on to you. In addition to having a really nice bookshelf in the background, what else do you do?
Oh, yeah. What's that? I'm sorry. What do I do?
Oh, I said, what else do you do besides run a brewery?
I am, I started. Hold on a second. I think I'm feeding back. Is that better?
I can hear you.
Still feedback?
Not on my end.
You guys hearing feedback?
I am.
That's weird. Better now? Okay.
There you go.
Professional musician. Brewery kind of was born out of that. So it was a touring musician when we were kind of figuring out the whole brewery. But in addition to being a touring musician, I am a medical director for WebMD. So basically I travel a lot, not anymore. Usually travel about 100,000 miles a year. All around the globe, not just the U.S. And I spend the majority of my time on the internet, so I have been reluctantly thrust into the owner that runs all the social media and deals with all the reviews and has to read all of that. And then just because I am also the one that is on the web all the time, I just have basically become the sales and marketing and a lot of the branding and all that kind of stuff. So very much internet based. I look at a computer screen 16 hours a day, 18 hours a day, it feels like. So
I guess you had a couple of your careers kind of interrupted by this pandemic. Do you still make any music?
Not so much. The brewery has a house band that I'm a part of, but no, I kind of had this goal that I wanted to become a signed musician. I wanted to get a record deal. That happened literally 6 months before we opened Broken Goblet. So if anybody knows the music industry, it's awful. And especially what I was involved in, which is sort of the heavy metal side of stuff. So got the deal and then pretty much was like, all right, that's it. I don't need to play music anymore. So it all sort of worked out well. So no, periodically we'll play, but life kind of, I'm 45 now, and life has kind of passed most of the band by. So if we get paid to play, we'll play someplace, but otherwise we're all, kids and other jobs and stuff. So it was a natural transition from being in a band to running a brewery, as crazy as that sounds, but there's a lot of synergy between the two.
No, I believe that we had a guest on a few weeks ago in a panel about, having a family and running a brewery, somewhat similar to this. And he actually has a live music venue as well, and he books shows, and the synergies there are just huge. So it's, I mean, a lot of what you learn in the concert promotion industry, and I did that in the past life as well. It definitely goes hand in hand. So I guess you traded your beer, you got a beer stein in exchange for shaving all your metal hair. Is that what you did?
I started going bald in the band, but just dealing with Untapped reviews, I think, has made me much more bald. I lost that went long ago. I just transitioned down to just distract you from up. My kids often say they want me to get new hair for Christmas, so I'm going to work on that this year to see. But no, it's been an interesting transition. But having the venue that we do, it does help because 2 of the 3 owners were touring musicians and in the music industry, so we're known for music and kind of high quality. And we, as I said earlier, we sunk a lot of money into this now unusable spot, but we're hoping and praying that in a year or so we'll be able to get back to some semblance of normalcy and financial stability from a business that is banking on this. So
you'll get there. Now, with regard to your other career at WebMD, do you do that out of necessity, or you do it because you've just been practicing and helping there so long that it's tough to give it up?
Well, I'm sure the 4 other gents on this call with me will agree. Unless you're in an alternate universe, the brewing industry is just not a high-paying gig. It's not a place where you can be like, I'm just going to start a brewery and I'm going to make $100,000 a year. It just doesn't work like that. So, I'm sure, like Karl said, the money it's much better on the day job. And what I found was that, so many little things would pop up that you need to have a bit of expendable cash for. And keeping my job specifically, it's not like I'm unable to perform my tasks for the brewery. It does add stress, of course, but then it also puts us in a position when the boiler breaks and we need $5K real quick, do I pull it out of my account, or or one of the other owners, or do we dip into the brewery fund? So I think it's helped us during COVID because we didn't have to constantly. The other 2 owners, by the way, that own Broken Goblet also have day jobs, so we didn't have to crush our tiny account nest egg in COVID to deal with it, and I think it's sort of almost proven itself. It's good that we all had our day jobs because we have some friends who don't, and they're really struggling and they're trying to pick what bills to pay, and we didn't want to be in that situation. So, but my job is a decent paying job. I mean, I bought this bookcase behind me, so I think that's IKEA, baby. And I don't see me ever being able to quit my day job ever.
Are you sure that bookcase behind you just isn't a green screen with some image behind you?
I promise you, you would be able to see that. No, it's not. It's mostly video game books. I mean, if anybody really zoomed in on that, they'd be like, "Boy, this man-child is in a band. He plays video games." But yeah, no, I could never quit my day job. Can't do it.
Awesome, I love it. Thanks for sharing that. Now, Marty, you are up. Now, I know what else you do, but tell the rest of the world what else keeps you busy besides running Pantown.
Well, I'm primarily a full-time real estate agent. So I've been selling real estate for 17 years. And, it's interesting hearing what everybody else does for their day job, because when I look at what I do, I've always figured there's no way I'd be able to run a brewery with any other day job other than being the realtor. That gives me enough flexibility to do what I need to do when I need to do it here. It was slow enough when we were initially opening that I was able to do a lot of the build out myself or be here for most of it. And as things slowed down seasonally for real estate, I spend more time here. But when things get busy, I do kind of check out too. So,
now, do you continue doing your real estate career out of necessity, or because you just enjoy doing it?
No, same as Mike was saying. There's open brewery. Step 1, step 2 is profit, right? Isn't that what it's supposed to be? Well, we hope to get there someday.
You're going to get there. Yeah, I guess for the most part, if you are doing these second jobs, you're doing it out of some necessity, or if you're doing it because you just want to do both, then God bless you on that, because I'm sure you're working.
It's a passion project. This wouldn't be happening if I didn't love it.
Of course. Awesome. Now, Jason, you're up. In addition to Rusty Nickel, what else keeps you busy?
So I actually have a couple of different careers in addition to the brewery. my primary job is actually the day job, which is my civil engineering career, and I'm a project manager for a firm that really runs up and down the East Coast and across New York State. So that occupies anywhere from 40 to 60 hours a week, and that's the primary breadwinner for keeping things comfortable as far as the lifestyle and making sure that, like many of the others, we have resources when and if there's an emergency or the unpredictable COVID experience, for example. It gives you a little bit of that safety net, if nothing else. And it certainly helps with being able to keep the stress levels a little bit more manageable. That's always the biggest concern for most people that I talk to anyway, is as a small business owner, what's the unexpected thing that's coming? Well, having a day job really insulates us from that. And like you guys, my two business partners as well also have day jobs. It was something that we kind of agreed to early on to say, you know what, let's make sure that this works, and let's make sure that we can get to a point where our growth and our revenue are kind of matching, and at some point we cross that threshold of profitability and then reevaluate at that point. So in addition to being a civil engineer, I also teach at the University of Buffalo, just one class in the spring semester, and that's a 14-week session, and 4 to 10 hours a week, depending on the week. But that's actually one of those things where I was doing it long before I started the brewing industry, and it was something of a passion, and the science and connectivity to the region really kept me involved in that. And there's a ton of reward in that, the same way that I think many of you guys would agree. Being a brewery owner has so many rewards. Seeing the smiling faces when we walk in the door and leave, it's really what we do this for. Anybody who tells you that it's all about the money, it's lying, because it's really about the people, and that's what we pride ourselves on here. That's what keeps us going. So that's what we're all about, and that's how I'm able to manage the collective of those things.
Awesome. Thanks for sharing that, Jason. And Jan, on to you.
Sure. So for my day job, I'm actually also a civil engineer, but I am director for a water utility. So as you can imagine, my job kind of spans the daytime and sometimes way into the nights. But both my partner and I both chose to both continue our careers when we opened up the brewery. He's in real estate title, and from our end, it does allow that us the ability to kind of insulate ourselves a little bit from the effects of COVID. It also was extremely important for us when we when we went into this, having that day job, having that income, to allow us to buy the equipment we need as needed, to not kind of rely on solely on getting loans and solely on getting that kind of external funding. Also allows us to kind of expand or increase our fermenting capacity or increase our brewing capacity as needed. But with the brewery and things I do there, because of my day job in my past, I kind of tended to get involved in some of the projects and some of the build out. I know we ended up doing most of the build out in the brewery ourselves, short of the restricted trades, the plumbing, the electrical, the HVAC. We did the work ourselves. My partner is also extremely handy as well. So it did allow us to kind of save on that end. It does allow us also to save on repairs and things, of that nature. And from there, during the off hours, it's usually for myself is sales, social media. Some of us mentioned untapped reviews and the annoyances associated with them. But to say I would ever leave my career, my day job, as I think Jason mentioned, it's extremely hard. It as a brewery owner, we do it for the smiles, for the people to see the enjoyment, for the people to give us feedback, to say, we tried a new recipe as a group, we kind of went down that path and it's phenomenal, or hey, maybe I would do this about, or go that way, and you kind of talk through with some of the customers. That's the awesome part, and seeing that reaction.
I think you've already touched on a lot of them and get ready to start throwing out to you guys. Now, obviously, we could talk all day about the challenges and stress you get from running a couple businesses, but you guys are all business owners, you're all entrepreneurs. And I think being an entrepreneur, you kind of almost like shooting yourself in the foot. Sometimes you like literally trying to balance as many projects as you can because that's the drive we get. Because if you didn't have that drive, you wouldn't want your business to be successful. And I think that's a lot of what makes us who we are as people and as business owners. But Jan, you touched on it a little bit. You know, having a second career allows you to pull your knowledge from what you do there into your current business. And Jan, you mentioned that, you know, just by being an engineer, you guys did a lot of the work, you know, at the brewery already, just because you had the skill set. You didn't have to bring in outside people. Jan, what are some of the other things you brought in from your other career to the brewery that's been beneficial over time?
Well, some of it's also the water quality side. Working for a water company, we do have, you know, as an engineer, we do have some basis in water chem and water industry type knowledge. Also on the sewer treatment side, a lot of times, you know, brewery owners or breweries get kind of in a little bit of a jam when it comes to the fact of discharges to the municipality. Oftentimes it's overlooked. Install, you know, you go, you discharge, then you get a visit from the you know, the utility, and then you're forced into a sampling manhole and maybe a treatment process or containerizing some of your you know, your discharge. So having that knowledge and being able to kind of speak with those professionals is extremely helpful. Other things, it's just being able to network and trying to talk to others about problems, about similar issues with, you know, in some cases our building. Other cases, it's trying to talk about some of the routing or being efficient with sales and distribution.
Have you ever used your career as a water engineer to help brew some certain beer styles that require specific water profiles?
I will say no, just as of yet. More on the getting our water, getting some of our chem under or water treatment under control. We have city water where our brewery is, and the treatment plant twice a year goes from chloramine to chlorine. So they basically chlorine burn their treatment process as part of regular maintenance. But just the change in water chemistry that occurs twice a year and being able to prepare for that, being able to adjust for that is huge.
Oh my gosh, yeah. At least you know how to do it pretty quickly, I'm sure.
Mm-hmm.
Cool. Well, Karl, I mean, I think it goes without saying, being a handyman definitely probably has its perks while you're running a brewery. You know, tell us some of the things you've kind of taken from being your skill set there to the brewery.
Well, of course, I end up, you know, everything that needs to be built out, that's pretty much what I'm doing. I mean, we've gone from a small tap room with a pole barn outside to enclosing the whole pole barn, adding bathrooms and a bar in there. And me and the owner pretty much did all of that ourselves. So it definitely brings a lot into the brewery of being able to do whatever needs to be done, repairing the equipment, adding new things. I mean, we've kind of done it all ourselves. And the owner actually was working full time when he started this brewery too, and he ended up quitting his job probably about a year and a half in because it was just too much. But his wife works, so she makes the money.
I take it, in addition to, you know, being the brewer, you knew going into it you'd be Mr. Fix-It at the brewery?
Yeah, I did. Yeah, and I kind of get in the same role with the other brewery that we're working on. I keep getting asked, "Oh, can you come in and do this? Can you come in and do that?" It's like, where am I going to find the time? But managed to do it. You know, go in on a Sunday or a Saturday, and had to go build the bar, and we're getting the equipment in, and I know I'm going to have to go hook that up and run all the glycol lines and everything else.
Well, good luck with that process. Keeps me busy. Sure. Yeah, without a doubt. Now, Mike, you talk a little bit more about, you know, how you pull from your music career or your potentially WebMD career to, you know, use that skill set at the brewery.
it's funny. Me and the other owners talk about this topic because I would love to hear what the other four guys have to say about this, which is I feel like I exist in two very compartmentalized worlds. I try real hard to never let WebMD Mike ever rear its face in Broken Goblet world, because if the two start to intertwine, there's going to be an awful lot of customers that don't like me anymore. And then also it just would probably drive all of our employees, staff, the other owners, it would drive them up a wall. So I really have tried to keep it separate as much as I possibly can. The band part and music, the synergies are just that, most bands that strive to kind of go somewhere, they punch above their weight. They act more professional than they probably are, at least outwardly. They have a really tight brand and they stick with it. They, over merchandise. They're overly nice. And so all of those things I just mentioned, you just transform that into a forward-facing ownership team or brewery staff, and you probably have a successful business, at least, on paper. So it's been a very nice, I took all of the same stuff we would do for T-shirts at the band, and now it's T-shirts for the brewery. And the way we would market and merchandise that stuff, social media, trying to utilize all the different platforms, how to engage with different audience and demographics, all that stuff that we did with the band, we did this, we'd do the same in the music. We would do the same, we do the same for the brewery. So it just helps, I think. And then, I think the hardest part for me has been, the time frame. Like I forget who mentioned it, but you spend 40 to 60 hours. It might have been Marty or Jason. 40 to 60 hours of doing day job, and then you've got to find time to do night job or other day job, as I like to call it. So you really are like mentally stretched thin. And when you compartmentalize, like at least that I'm trying to do, I feel like I say it all the time, and it's not something I should joke about. I'm gonna have a stroke. I'm gonna have a stroke one day because I'm gonna be trying to remember to update the Beer Me site because that beer is at low stock. And also I have to remember to call this doctor in Italy on his time zone to have and one day I'm just going to snap. And I worry that it takes a toll on my wife. It takes a toll on my kids. It takes a toll on my relationships, my families, my friends, because I have it so compartmentalized. And when they start to intermingle, I worry that I'm not going to be able. It's like it's going to be an avalanche. I'm not going to be able to keep up, and that's the part that.
Well, your wife is the one who wanted you to join today. This actually isn't a conversation. This is
great. She's going to pop up the window.
You guys are doing way too much. You're having too much fun.
Yeah.
But Marty, being a real estate agent and running a brewery, I can see that going hand in hand a lot like, Mike's career there, just the social aspects. Can you talk a little bit about how you bring that into running the brewery?
Yeah, they really do overlap well. I was kind of laughing when Mike was talking about, WebMD Mike can't meet Brewery Mike. The two can't exist in the same plane because, real estate Marty and Brewery Marty really do exist in the same plane. There is a lot of overlap. I don't go into the real estate office very much. I come in here every day and I drop my laptop on the bar and I do both at the same time. I do worry about stroking out a little bit, trying to remember, to keep track and keep up with all my clients and still keep up with everything that needs to be done here. Luckily, I've got a really good team here, so there are a lot of things that I can, put on other people's plates that helps me out quite a bit. But bringing in the marketing aspect, the social media aspect, everything that I was already doing and fully aware of in real estate tied in really well to the brewery. We were able to carry that, into the brewery, and I think that gave us a good head start in our marketing efforts when we did initially open.
Awesome. Very cool.
Day-to-day
so Jason, we're going to go into you, then we're kind of open the floor for everyone to hop in and just get this a big old discussion.
So to kind of piggyback on a couple of the comments that have been made so far, really balance is the key to what we do here. Primarily, that is achievable only through a team, both on the engineering front and on the brewery front. So we have to be very selective with the individuals that we work with, especially at the brewery, because they have so many responsibilities that allow us to sort of focus on the critical elements that we have to focus on as owners. And without that balance, this would be next to impossible. I think the challenge is finding the priorities and establishing which ones you have to kind of target, because every day they change. Like any business, you've got bills to pay, and you've got manufacturing to produce, and that's easy on paper. But when you start to break it down into the fact that you now have to be a merchandiser, and you have to be a packager, and you're still a chemist, and thank God my engineering background provides me some of those resources, both on the scientific side of things, but also mathematically speaking, we've got many in many ways you got to balance the books, and that's the number one priority for somebody. Unfortunately, in my shoes, that wasn't exactly what I expected, but it's a resource that I have, and if it wasn't for that, you'd be looking at another person to take on that role. And like many of you guys, we built this place basically from the ground up with the shell of the building. We did the plumbing, the electric, the gas, the ceilings that you can see behind me, 350 pallets broken apart, milled down and then carefully fastened to the ceiling. It's all a labor of love, as they call it. But that's really the only way it was possible for us to manage it do it with our own revenue and our own income. We want to minimize the amount of ownership that would have come from somebody else, so that we didn't have to work for another person, because this is our fun job. Like, well, how do you do it? It's still fun for us, and if it wasn't, this wouldn't be worth it. But that's really what this is all about. It's got to be fun, and the way for us to do that is so that we weren't working for somebody else, and we were able to make it our own and keep the customer as the focus.
And the ceiling looks great, by the way, at least what I can tell from your little square.
But
you just touched on it a lot. There's a lot of aspects that go into being a brewery owner. One, you got to be passionate about it. If you don't enjoy what you're doing, well, then something's wrong. We work in craft beer. But you also mentioned, how life is a balancing act, whether it's balancing you guys' tasks at the brewery or balancing both jobs. So just yesterday, I think most of you guys know, I kind of do two different things in the craft beer industry. I do craft beer professionals, and I also run a company called Secret Hopper, and I try to keep them completely separate. While I do both, I wear two different hats. I don't like them intertwined. And yesterday, I finally made myself get a craft beer professional email address, as opposed to having everything come through the same way. And for me, it's just about trying to find little tricks to balance, whether it's having that separate email box or just making yourself have certain hours each day you concentrate on one project or the other. How do you guys balance what you do? And at this point, whoever wants to talk, jump on in. Let's get this open floor. Or if nobody has advice to the listeners, we can just end a little early.
Well, I would say, I take a lot of notes these days to try to keep track of stuff. I know that's such a stupid suggestion, but it's true that I have to take notes on stuff, because I start to lose track of things. And the other thing that I've been doing, which maybe isn't good, but it's been working for me, is I'm trying to answer Facebook messages, Instagram questions, stuff like that, almost immediately as they come in, because if I wait, it gets lost in a sea of everything. And then, nothing wrinkles me more than someone who asks a question on Facebook and then like 45 minutes later sends the same question mark. Like, I didn't answer fast enough. When it's like, and I can't write back and say, dude, I'm working my day job right now. Like, they don't care. So I've been trying to just answer right away as succinctly as possible and just get it off my plate. That's one of the things that has helped me more recently, because it just nips it in the bud, and I don't have to think about it anymore.
I bet your wife loves that, doesn't she?
My wife.
I had to go the other way with that. That was one of those things where when I was getting too busy and I could feel myself coming unglued, that was the key to me, that it was time to hire a manager, bring somebody else in to help with some of the more immediate tasks. I can still step back and oversee things day to day and take a little bit more of a 10,000 foot view. But sometimes I just cannot be involved and do all of the little minutia. It's unfortunate that starts cutting into profits. But again, kind of like a number of people have mentioned, this is more of a passion project than for the money. The enjoyment that we get out of this, or that I get out of it, is the conversations that come with customers when they're in here, hearing people outside of the tap room talk about how awesome of a place this is and they can't wait to come back. It's all those things that make this worthwhile for me on a day-to-day basis.
Now, Marty, I think you gave yourself a challenge, though. You said you spend a lot of time just in the brewery actually doing your realtor work. Is that correct?
Yeah, I do that. And again, it's at the same time, you're kind of overseeing everything else, but I can't get into everything. I can't update the Untapped menus. I can't print off our menus every week. I can't answer the messages on Facebook and Instagram instantaneously. Sometimes I can, but there's more of a team effort going on with that. If Chris doesn't get to it right away, my taproom manager, and I happen to get to it first, great, then it happens that way. But at least somebody is always on top of that.
So how do you handle it? If you're working on your laptop in the tap room, you see something happen you want to jump into, but you're in the middle of something real estate wise. Do you have that self-control to let someone else handle it? Or, how does the situation take care of itself?
Case by case basis. Do I need to handle it? Is it something that I need to do? What I'm working on, can I pause it? I can stop typing an email to somebody and move on to something else. If I'm in a phone call talking to a client, then that client's going to take priority and I've got to finish through with it. But there's very few things that are instantaneous emergencies that I need to handle in either business, really.
And through COVID, have you found that you've been able to kind of organize each business a little better by taking a step back, like you had mentioned?
It was really weird. Talk about March, April, maybe even April, May. There was a good 8 weeks where I did almost nothing. Real estate was at a complete standstill. Nobody wanted to move. They were, under lockdown orders in Minnesota. We were at stay-at-home orders, and the brewery tap room was shut down. We transitioned in matter of 36 hours from a tap room to a packaging brewery and started doing all the to-go and delivery orders. So that was where the focus was for, probably 6-8 weeks. And then probably the beginning of June, real estate got really busy, and now it's been a heavier focus. I'd say in the last week or two, both have kind of slowed down enough where I kind of feel like I can take a breath again. I can put a little bit more focus into the brewery and spend a little bit less time on real estate, but it's one of the nice things about it being a little bit seasonal. There's kind of an ebb and a flow to real estate that, I can put a lot of effort into the brewery for certain periods of time. And then I also have great people here, so I can step back for a month or two as I have to and just oversee things and not be so much day to day.
Yeah, I think having great help, surrounding you is definitely really important.
That's the only way that this would work for me.
Yeah, I would echo that. I mean, the importance of a team is huge with balancing this. Little things I've learned more and more is the importance of scheduling things. Sometimes something that you may think it was important right now, you prioritize and you push off and you actually schedule it. Take your time, have that meeting, focus on it, and then move on to another topic. Because if you don't finish it, things typically get left by the wayside. Focusing your attention and moving on is a lot better than trying to do 10 things at once, because oftentimes when you do that, one of those things or a bunch of those things get left by the wayside. But also, stretching yourself and bringing somebody on once you notice that breaking point is huge too. For us, when we originally opened, I was doing all the sales, helping in the tap room, doing all of, like everyone else here, I'm sure, kind of doing some of everything. And then you learn that sales is now, outside sales is now starting to grow and turn into its own animal and monster. At that point, we made the decision to bring on somebody to do full-time sales. So it's really finding those items that are, that have the most benefit, focusing on them, and then bringing somebody into that role or growing somebody into that role. We were fortunate the person that did that did a lot of our label design in-house. He also had previously done brewery sales, so we were able to cultivate him and groom him back into that role, and really groom him into doing all of our label work and finding those, and finding his passion in beer. And
so you found another person with almost two hats that he wears.
Yes.
Yeah, it's always great when you can find someone who fits in nicely like that. But it's challenge too to also give up that control, especially when it's something you've previously done for a while.
Oh, I agree. I agree. There is that challenge, but you don't have to fully give up control, and that's the whole thing. What you have to realize is you're all working for that same vision or that same direction. As long as you can convey your passion or your vision to your team, then you're not really giving up control. You're sharing it. And I think that's the misconception that a lot of people look at is if I give somebody else something, I am giving up my control. It's not. It's you're sharing that control. Yes, you as an owner. Yes, you as a officer of a business or brewer or anything else are ultimately responsible for that. But you're sharing in that and allowing other people to make those decisions, other people to learn those processes. Because if they don't learn, you never move forward as a person or as a manager or as a business.
No, I think that's a really great takeaway for anyone listening. If you can just find a way to do that, you're taking steps in the right direction.
Absolutely.
Jason, I think you just unmuted yourself.
Yeah, I was just going to add to that, and that if you have to believe in trust systems, and some of the greatest ways to develop that trust is to establish like operating procedures, standard operating procedures for tasks. A very healthy communication line is critical to success with that. And once you start doing it, it actually becomes natural for not only you, but for your team. And it's really important that you have that connectivity from the bottom to the top, and stop looking at it as a top to bottom type thing. And you look at it as a collective approach. And that was a great point. You're all in it for the same reason. Once everybody starts moving in the same direction, the success follows. And the best way to do that is to bring people into the fold when it makes sense, so that you can take on other responsibilities to help everybody else grow. And that is something that really, for us, it took us a little while to get there, because you start to realize that you can't move without giving some of that responsibility up, right? And it's less challenging the more you do it. And when you start to do it, you feel this relief, and that pressure and that stress starts to go away. And there's a number of reasons why, because you realize that you've freed up more of your own time so that you can focus on other things that also help the team grow. But you've kind of shed some of that weight, and you just check in. As long as you're checking in and you're keeping a tab on some of those things that are absolutely critical, the more and more that individual does it, and the more successful they become, you're growing that team, and you're growing it pretty quick. And that's really where any business wants to be, right? That's a great method for success.
No, awesome. I love hearing these tips from you guys, because everybody watching is going to eat them all up. Now, Karl, do you have anything you want to add to this one about balancing?
I don't get to have like a team under me to help out, so it gets a little tough. I just end up scheduling around days that have brewing that needs to be done at that, and then I pick a couple days out of the week where I can go do my business. And it's really a juggling act, especially when you run into, say, a problem. You come in to brew and something breaks, and now it's pushed that off a day, and you flip around the whole schedule and try and reschedule with people. It gets difficult, but it's a balancing act for sure. And I just keep on chipping away.
Well, we're going to dive into the comments section for a minute now, guys. We have a question from Jonathan that kind of goes on a little bit further about balancing. Now, he's curious about hearing you sketch schedules. Like, do you brew on Mondays and Wednesday nights, or you're behind the bar on weekends? Talk a little bit about, how you schedule yourself.
Yes, I'll grab this one first. So for me, my full-time job is usually 7 to 3:30. That's for the most part how I work. So, and I can adjust schedule as needed if the brewery calls for it. But usually I try to plan out certain tasks throughout the week. If it's, if I'm working a tasting room, okay, that's one night. Or if I'm gonna go and I choose to do, we're doing all sales, I'm doing that the rest of the week. And then if I have particular tasks, I do those during the weekend. Like if I have one project to get done during the weekend, I focus on that one project and I get that done, and then move on. You have to have that balance. If you walk in and you want to do everything, then it becomes extremely difficult.
Jan, do you have your schedule up here in your head? Do you write it down? Do you use like a Google Calendar? Any tips there?
I end up actually writing it down. I end up using a mix of devices, whether those devices are, my cell phone, my iPad, the computer. I've linked my calendar so I can adjust my schedule as needed. I find that, having that connectivity, and I originally did not, I was not a huge fan of having the 6 different calendars linked on 6 different devices, but having that ability to look at your calendar, plan out your week or plan out your day is huge. Not only that, but also on the sales side, having a CRM, being able to look up a customer, look up the name. So when you go visit a place, even if it's for your own benefit, you go stop by one of the restaurants or bars that are a customer, you can pull up and say, hey, that's the manager's name. That's a little bit of info, and give, the customer that experience.
Anyone else want to chime in on this one? All really good advice there, John.
I don't brew here. I have a brewer, but I can speak to another friend of mine, a local brewery owner with a day job, and he works his day job every day, and he goes and he brews every night. I can stop in his brewery basically 4 or 5 nights a week, and he'll be back there brewing beer. I don't know how he does it, balancing the family and everything else, but that is the way that Jacob does it at Spilled Grain in Annandale. As far as my schedule, I go where I need to be when I need to be there. Sometimes it's real estate related, sometimes it's brewery related. I've got my Google Calendar, everything's all meshed, and I just I go where I have to go when I need to be there.
Anybody else have anything they want to throw in on that one?
Well, I could toss in a little bit. We made an agreement at the early onset of our our endeavor here, and that was because we were all at different points in our lives. My business partners and I are like 10 to 12 years apart. They have families and young kids, and over the years, we knew that the needs would change for each person. So we've kind of come up with a collective agreement where, we have to make a certain production goal, and we have the needs for sales. And in doing so, we adjust our schedules on a monthly or an annual basis. But we generally have a weekly schedule where we know what days of the week we're going to be brewing. That also allows us to schedule many of our other needs around that. And we generally know that I'm going to be taking on the bulk of the work for now. And once the families are off to college and, there's an empty nest for my business, Dave, he's going to then step back and really focus on the brewery as much as he can, and allow me to kind of slow down a little bit or focus on different areas that would allow us to kind of grow in different direction or more than what we had been. So that was something that we built in early on to our partnership agreement, and it's worked out really well for the most part. And there's always challenges, but you figure it out as you go. And like many were saying, as things pop up, you prioritize and you address the biggest priorities first. And like you said, you cannot tackle a million things at once. You got to focus on a couple of big ones, get those off your plate, and then you can start getting into the minutia.
No, really great advice there. Now we're going to go to a comment that Ed made earlier, and we kind of touched on this a little bit. I'm going to put it up on the screen right now. Did you all pay yourselves from the brewery as salary, dividends, or is it even happening yet? Does anyone want to touch on this one? I see a few head shakes.
As I mentioned on YouTube, we're 6.5 years in, 3 owners, 0 paychecks, 0 dividends. When we bartend, we don't take tips. Nothing. That's why somebody else commented and said they were thinking of opening a brewery, and I kind of half jokingly said, don't do it. But I wish them the best of luck if they do. I think I've heard every guy on this call say the word passion project. It really is. And kudos to breweries that are successful and are making it work. But there's not, I hope everybody's hearing what the other guys have said just in the last 10 minutes about, delegating and bringing on somebody else. Somebody said they got their label designer to start being sales. I mean, all these people deserve and should be paid for it. So unless we're lucky to have somebody who's not making any money, every time there is extra cash that would be coming in, you have to make a decision as an owner. Are you going to divert it to yourself, or are you going to, buy another, seamer for crowlers, or are you going to bring on somebody else, or have an admin, or elevate a staff member who deserves to be elevated and pay them more, get that manager up to a better wage, or promote somebody up into something else. So for me, we've made zero money. I think we were on the cusp of like a pittance right before COVID hit, and obviously that has been completely destroyed. So maybe it'll happen, but at this point now we're working on legacy. It's what are we going to leave for our family and our friends, and do I want to see somebody smiling face and say how great a time they had, versus do I want to make $12,000 that year? I'll trade it for the first one any day. So for us,
right on. But being a musician already, you're just used to working for just beer.
Yeah. Now I get to drink. Yeah, and we don't even do that. Like, we go buy beer from other breweries because A, we're running out of stuff, but B, we want to support. So even then, I'm not getting free beer. I'm like, what the hell did I do this for?
Yeah, I think we're all holding out for that big Anheuser-Busch buyout.
Well, that's a whole another conversation. I'm not going to dive into today whether or not you take the money, but we'll let the users think what they will while they watch.
Yeah.
But let's talk about another one Ed asked, because this is a pretty good question, I believe. You guys talked about how you balance your lives, but in balancing your life, how important is it that your customers know who you are? Do you guys put your faces in that tasting room so people see you sitting there doing your real estate work, they're going to come say, hey, or are you more behind the scenes because you are so busy?
Before we opened our brewery, I went and visited with every local brewery owner around. And one of the best pieces of advice I got from another owner was to be in the tap room and be visible. People that come in here, your craft beer fans, want to meet the owner. They want to talk to the owner. They want to feel that connection. So, we have a lot of staff working here, but I try to spend a lot of time in here myself, whether I'm having a beer or visiting with, regular customers. I've made good friends because we've opened the brewery. Quite honestly, I've developed real estate sales from people I've met in the brewery. So it's all worked in synergy. But as a craft beer fan myself, I always found that was one of the things that I enjoyed when I went to a brewery was, being able to have a conversation with the owner or the brewer or somebody else that is responsible for the direction of that brewery. So we've made that a point. It's a little harder with COVID when you've got limited capacity in the brewery to say, okay, I'm going to take up one of these limited spots for myself, but I still think it's important for the overall feel in the brewery and what we're trying to do.
I think it's extremely important to have the owner's face out there, or at least one of the owner's faces visible.
Yeah, I would agree with that. And it's, it's the big thing, at least I find personally when I go to breweries, is access to the owner. When the owner's out there, he's enjoying himself, whether he's in the tap room, like you said, enjoying himself, or, working behind the bar or doing things around the brewery. It's seeing that commitment and that devotion that you had to start this business and really get into this industry really, shows through and follows through. I mean, if nothing else, a lot of comments we hear from our customers in the brewery is your brewery's clean. As simple as that, hearing that and realizing, that being clean and that they made that observation for you makes you feel good, because it really sets you apart from others. Not to say that other breweries aren't clean, but that people are making those observations and are also realizing that, your hard work is not just going away, that you're not going crazy just trying to clean things and nobody notices. People do notice, and they do pick up on those things, and they do pick up on the fact that if there's a problem there, an owner jumps in, usually takes care of, or one of our staff jumps in and takes care of it. It's that really that passion and that drive that follows through.
Definitely. Anyone else want to chime in?
Yeah, I'd love to touch on this one.
Cool, go for it.
Over the years that we started off and we were the brewers, the bartenders, the salespeople, a little bit of everything. And, as you start to strip away some of those components and delegate those things and that ties directly to our pay. So to touch on that, we have not taken any pay. We have not taken any dividends. It's all been 100% reinvested in customer experience, growth, whatever it is. But that was, again, something we agreed to early on. We've already rolled one of our business loans onto our second, and that's all just because of growth and opportunity. But it's also because we've been able to have a second job. So, there's all that balance, right? But the thing that I really love to do is get behind the bar. For one, it gives me an opportunity to engage with my team and show them how we got to where we are, because we as owners are going to go back there and we're going to give everything we've got to that customer experience. And the one thing I love to do is I'll take a Spiegel glassware set and ask a person who's got a pint glass with an IPA in it and say, hey, have you guys ever done the Spiegel experience? And give you kind of a scratch into the head and say, no, what's that? And we go through the glassware and explain to them why glassware matters. Something as simple as that, and the experience that you get with different glasswares alone, and why you should invest in that if you're drinking at home and that's something that you really can't teach a lot of that. There's that passion that's involved. I think owners really should be sharing as often as possible with their customers. That's something that we love to do, and that's like you guys are saying, when you can explain the beers down to the finest detail, there's a huge appreciation for that, because that's why they're coming to you. They're not going to the grocery store and buying a 12-pack. They're coming to your place and they're getting 2 or 3 pints and really looking for an experience. And owners absolutely should be, as often as they can, engaging in that.
No, I love that.
One thing I want to add to what you just said, the breweries that have forward-facing ownership like that are the ones that can make mistakes. This is my opinion. Are the ones that can make mistakes and be able to withstand that mistake, because the people who are consuming the mistake or whatever it may be, whatever you screwed up as a business, they know that there's a human behind it. There's a consequence. They're sorry. They want to make it right. And we found that when you put out a release that missed the mark or wasn't what you wanted, that was perfect, generally we get forgiven for it because we're there in front of people saying, hey, we missed the mark on that one, we're going to nail it on the next one. I think it's such an important point, like to what you just said, just talking to people at the bar, explaining glassware, like little tiny things that seem like you spent 5 minutes too long with that person will save you 5 hours of headache down the road when they are saying, you know what, didn't have a great experience that day, but I'm not going to bash them on the internet. I'm not going to never go there again. I'm going to go back because I know that Marty or Karl, whoever, is there and gives a shit about my experience. So
Yeah,
I absolutely love that.
Yeah, to even build on that, you see the reviews online. People do pick up on it. You'll see the online reviews where, I was able to talk to an owner. I was able, or I had this experience and the people were great. Those are the awesome things that, when you get to read about that.
Yeah, well, some people might not consider a civil engineer being a romantic job. They do think of your job as a brewery owner as being pretty cool and romantic. So, you've got that going for you guys. There's so many questions we could throw out there. We got one more from the comments I'm going to throw up there, and then we're going to kind of wind it down. I mean, just running a business and running a second business on top of that are things we could talk about and give advice for quite some time. And all these great experiences you guys sharing. I think you might have clicked the wrong button. Have been really appreciated. But one question that I want to touch on really quickly is, we didn't talk about how you take breaks yet. We've talked about how you balance 2 careers, but how do you find time for your family, your partners, your friends? Just how do you put that downtime on your schedule?
I have nothing to add.
You don't have any downtime, Marty?
What is downtime?
We actually, I mentioned it earlier, but we've kind of formulated it into our model. When let's say that there's a school concert, and 2 of the family members have to participate, we get a phone call, hey, I got this going on with the family tonight. What do we have to do to make it work while you're not here? Not everybody has that opportunity, but knowing that was going to be a challenge, we've built it into our model over the years and adapted and adjusted accordingly as often as necessary. And by no means is it perfect, but it's one of those things that adapts, right? And then as far as personal separation, I build in a couple of very important vacations to the woods or to the tropics as often as possible, but seldom am relieved of the responsibilities while there. So, at that point, you try to delegate in advance of going anywhere, so that if unless the place is burning down, you're insulated to any really major issues.
No, I know Mike mentioned he has to go in a second. That's one of the things about hosting one of these panels when you're doing it with guys who have, other jobs going on. So unfortunately, Mike, you're going to have to leave us. But it's been awesome having you today. And I think we should have a conversation again soon, because I love your background in music and, throwing it all together to make it work.
Well, thanks. I'm sorry I have to go, but I can't think of a better excuse than for this topic to say that I have to go to a meeting for my day job. But
one more thing, Mike. Where can we check out your band? Where can we check out your band? You got to get a little plug.
Oh God!
Come on.
No, I'm not even going to go there. There's probably people watching right now who didn't know I worked for WebMD, so that's one thing that I'm like, and B, didn't know I was in a band because I try to keep it all separate. In fact, I have my full name on the ticker thing there. Most people that I know don't even know that that's my full name. And when my name started to pop up in interviews and stuff like that, people from day jobs started asking me lots of questions. Like, what are you doing? You could have another hour-long conversation about, the danger of having a job like owning a brewery and then trying to be a professional somewhere else and the craziness that can come out of it. I have stories I could share that would be crazy, but I have to go. Guys, pleasure. Andrew, awesome job.
Hey, see you, Mike. It's definitely a good
conversation. I'd love to stay longer. See you.
Cool. Well, I want to announce now, when Mike's not here, next Tuesday at 11 a.m. we'll be doing a live stream of his band's first concert in 6 months. Just kidding on that one. But, ideas for the future. But, we're going to do one quick lightning round for you guys, because while I still got you, if you have to rush to your day job, just let me know. I know someone's shot something in the private chat. But, we're talking about forced family breaks. Does anybody else want to throw anything on that before I throw out one final? You got to find time for your friends and family.
Oh, we find time. It's just not much.
And it's intermittent. As you get more time or you lose time, or if you have to commit yourself. I mean, as the levels adjust in the brewery or the commitment adjusts, you would find more time some months and less time in others. I mean, COVID's kind of turned all of that, head over heels, to be honest.
Yeah. Now, with you guys' busy schedules, if you had to pass along one task or give up something, what's the one thing you would get off your schedule if you could?
I've already done it.
What is it, Marty?
Scheduling the taproom staff and kind of all that little minutia. It was good to give that to a taproom manager and not have to deal with it. Just kind of oversee the process and make sure it fits what I'm looking for.
And at any point in the distant future, do you want to retire from one of your careers?
No.
Awesome. No. Well, Jason, you didn't answer the first question. What would you give up though if you could? Any task?
I'm with Marty. The more that I can distribute to others, the more opportunity I can focus on some of the bigger projects and getting into, for example, for us, it's getting into distribution. And we added a second tap room just before COVID. We've had to shutter it because of the number of shutdowns and duration, but I'd love to get that space back open someday. That really requires an incredible amount of focus and a whole new team to really operate that. So for me, it's continuing to delegate and go and focus into other more specific areas.
Awesome. And John, how about you?
Well, a little bit of, I've already kind of done it with some of the sales, but it's that day-to-day travel sales portion of it that it was nice to kind of get off my plate. It allowed me to kind of focus on some of the bigger accounts to help us grow our distribution. So, work on that portion of it. But it's, as you find those tasks, it is delegating, and it is, developing that level of trust with your staff. And
And
I don't
you
see
plan to
myself.
ever give up your career as a civil engineer, or somehow get out of the brewing industry?
I don't see it. I love both, and that's the challenge of enjoying what you do.
Fantastic. And Karl, how about you? You've already kind of mentioned that you're doing a little bit less handyman work, and as you take on 2 breweries, is there anything you want to give up, and do you want to kind of just retire the handyman from being a private company?
Yeah, I'm kind of looking at leaning towards that way. I mean, just as long as, there's enough money coming in from other places. It is maybe retiring from doing that and just focus on the brewing industry. But as we all know, it's not a ton of money. So it's a difficult decision, and probably not one I'm making real soon.
And I don't think anyone's rushing you to do it. But, as we wind down right now, I think one of the words, Jason, you mentioned it quite a few times, passion, passion, passion. In order for you guys to live the lives you want to live, you have to be passionate about both. And it's really fantastic. And I think it's motivating to everybody watching right now to see you 4 and 5 earlier setting an example of balancing your careers, your family. You're doing so much, and you're doing it with a smile on your face. Sure, you could find a way to quit one of the things you do and give up and try to put your all into something else, but you have so many interests. And I think that's one of the things that speaks to the current state of craft beer. You have to be able to balance, and you have to be able to run a business. And these are skills you guys have acquired from one career to the other, and you kind of put them together to make both businesses run as smoothly as possible. Now, this has been a fun conversation. I've enjoyed it because I can relate so much to you 4. And I appreciate, you guys taking the time this morning to share all your insight with everybody watching. And this topic was so popular, we decided to do another panel. So at 8 o'clock tonight, if you guys want to be on the other side of this, you can just watch and see what 4 other brewery owners, have experienced in their careers doing the exact same thing you have. Because if we've learned one thing from one another, there's no formula to make this work. And I think it's just trying things and having a great team around you and just tons of positivity and passion is what's going to make it work. And you guys are doing a fantastic job. So thanks again for joining today. And I'll see you hopefully in person at some point in the not too distant future. And Marty, enjoy the snow. That sounds absolutely terrible. So,
Yeah, thanks.
bye guys. Thanks everybody for watching.
Thank you.
Thank you.